それではこれより分科会4
Now on, Subcommittee 4, One Health Initiative will be started for medical and rehabilitation personnel. The chairpersons and coordinators of this session, representing NPO, the Association of Language and Relationship, physician Dr. Fumiko Okubo, and the speech language hearing therapist, Ms. Ako Nomura. Please, Dr. Okubo and Ms. Imamura, the stage is yours. Thank you. I would like to start Subcommittee 4, One Health Initiative for Medical and Rehabilitation personnel. We are also another human beings. I'm sure that you feel this theme, One Health, in this major framework, whereas people are making a use of their life while making the use of their strengths, so that we are living beings in the spread of diverse life. For people who make a presentation, as is mentioned earlier, I am from Kotori. I'm Imamura of NPO organization, and the chairmanship is Dr. Fumiko Okubo. Along with Dr. Okubo, I would like to share this session. I would like to introduce two the speakers. Firstly, Ms. Yuko Watanabe, nursery teacher of Child Development Support Center, Ms. Maiko Kato, speech language hearing therapist of Fukuoka Ryoiku Support Center, Ichibanboshi, and Mr. Yuji Takenaka, representative director of occupational the Fukuoka OT Association, who is an occupational therapist, Professor Megumi Toshimitsu, associate professor, clinical psychologist, and certified psychiatrist of Faculty of Children's Studies, Department of Psychological Counseling of Kitakyushu University. Since 2021, the pandemic of COVID-19, once again, what is it that we can do as being healthy? This is a question posed to us. So without natural environment, you cannot discuss the health. We keenly feel this. One health, the people with the children and diseases, this is a very familiar theme. In the welfare, medical services, the question to the wonder of nature is very important. With One Health as a theme, our day-to-day life, what we can do. So it's important that we form the teamwork amongst the people with different professions. Today, from respective perspective, we like to send out an approach-based message. So along with the people, we like to learn with each other. Ms. Watanabe, please.
療育の立場から生命を見つ
Thank
め
you
る
very much indeed.
発表させていただきたいと思います。
I would like to present under the theme of looking at life from the perspective of assistive education. I am a nursery teacher, Yuko Watanabe.
これは、お芋掘りの絵なんですけれども、
This is a picture drawn of kids digging up potatoes. A 4-year-old child with autism is watching over his classmates over the fence. He may want to join his friends, but he cannot. It looks like he's struggling inside. We would certainly call him to encourage him to join, but it's impossible for this boy to make any advances. Still, he continues to watch over the place where his friends are, and certainly we could see his internal struggles. We just watched over him, knowing that he wanted to join. After a while, he came over to the field. For him, spending time in the field became something he would enjoy, and he would enjoy with his friends. Within this boy, Somehow, he found in touch. He found himself in touch with the nature around him. Now, according to the Health and Welfare Ministry, Ryuiku, or education for children with disabilities, are meant to promote physical and psychological development, to provide assistance in the area of welfare, psychology, education, and healthcare. For example, when children eat, we watch over them, how they look at the food they're eating, and we decide on which plates to use, which cutlery to use, and which tables and chairs to use. And through life, behavioral controls or awareness of the situation and preparedness for the next move are the areas where we would like them to develop so that they can begin to cope with the daily lives in the society. At a facility like ours, where we provide assistive education for children with disabilities, we look at how children develop physically, mentally, emotionally, through their languages, as well as their attitudes and behavior towards others. But still, that is only looking at them from the surface. There is no way of knowing what these children are thinking and feeling inside. They may be experiencing something more profound than ostensibly clear. For example, let's take weather. When it rains, when it snows, when the skies are clear, what are they feeling? How do they feel about the seasons changing around them? Spring leaves turning from green to brown, and eventually the trees defoliate. And how do they look at such changes in seasons? We don't know exactly. Now, some children look for bugs. Someday they find some. Another day, they may not find any. And that's only natural. For us, that's only natural, but that's not how children would feel. There are people, there are bugs, insects in this world. People have social lives. And children eventually learn they cannot spend all day outside till they find some bugs, even if children want to do so. So there is a struggle in them. But then parents and adults around them would tell them to come in. So that's where children struggle inside between their desires to be outside and the instructions from the adults. Eventually, children learn that there are days like that. When winter approaches, children stop looking for bugs. And that is how children learn the season called winter. When it rains, some children feel that they cannot go outside because it's raining. They stay indoors and spend their time there. Some children continue to wonder why they cannot go outside watching the rain. without doing anything else.
子供は雨をどう感じているんだろうか。
When we see them like that, we would feel what the feelings inside of those children are. They may be at the same time being exposed to whatever they're seeing, and they may be considering that situation in the context of their lives.
散歩の途中に見つけた。
While taking a walk,
散歩の途中に見つけた小石や葉っ
while taking a walk, a child may find
ぱ。
leaves and small stones. While they are in the nature, sometimes
言葉にはなりませんが。なんだろうと。
children experience wonders which cannot be expressed in words. This child
こういう場面を
is watching little stones
子供が目をやるその姿を見ていると
as if wondering what they are.
自然を改めて知ります。アスファルトの上でも
When you look at what the children are looking, you begin to realize
子
that
供はしゃがみ込んで
even
すぐそばに
in the
が
paved
あることを知るけれど、大人は
walkways,
それを
there are some pieces of nature that children might notice, but not the adults.
砂場で遊んでいると
While playing
混じっていた
on the beach,
子供の手
a
のひらに
child may spot some seashells
小さな貝殻を見せてくれます。
and she will show you
キラキラと
what she has found.
その子供に喜びを感じます。
She's excited, and adults looking over the excited child would
一個見つけて
be
見
pleased.
せてくれ。また一個
The child continues to find a new pieces of seashells,
大人は全身で貝
and
殻を
every time she finds one, she would bring it
喜びを感じ
to the parents and teachers to show what she has garnered.
親の思い、
Now,
特にこのコロナ禍の今、
under COVID-19 pandemic,
語れる場が減っています。
there may be a mismatch between how children are feeling and how parents are feeling,
それから
and they may not be able to communicate
より
sufficiently enough. In my position, I feel
語れる場は
that frustration on the part of children and
だ
that
なと思います。
on the part of parents.
今を語る場を
It's really difficult. It's really
大事にしていた
important because it is difficult to secure a place where ample communication can take place.
どうしてだろう、楽しいな、
Children would feel
もう一度やってみ
joy
たい
without knowing the reasons. When children are moved
ゆっくり
to repeat
子供に
the
味わって
things over which bring them joys,
立ち止まって付き合いたい時間です。
we would like them to spend ample time to be able to do
時
so.
間を共有し合いたいものです。
And that is when we feel that
時間をかけて
such time should be
そ
shared
れで感じ得たもの
between
を
us.
重なり合わせながら次のものを見つけるのでしょう。
Children will continue
まるで季節の
finding something new,
時間をかけながら
overlapping something they already knew, just like seasons, which progresses while overlapping with the previous seasons.
どうかなと子供がちょっと足を止めて問い続けることは
Children sometimes
心
stop
に感じているものがある
and start thinking
心に
what to
沈ん
do.
でいるものもあるかもしれません。
There may be certain things that
気づくというの
they
は
have in mind
意外と難しいものです。
we cannot see. It's really difficult for us to recognize what is on their mind. They have different ways of communicating
持っていることな
how they are feeling,
どれだけ私たち大人は受け止め
and because of their differences,
時間
adults find it difficult to understand them all.
気持ちを消さないようにしていくことに目を向けたいものです。
Only thing that you can do is spend ample time to watch over what is changing very, very slowly inside children.
自分のことのように喜んだり
children love living things. They love them and they are scared of them. Under COVID-19, we have to disinfect everything before children can start playing. We would very much like the children who love animals to be able to read as many books about animals as he would like. It's important for adults to talk to the children while showing facial expressions of themselves. And that was the norm in nursery schools where we take care of children with disabilities. Yoiku, or assistive education, is a form of education which would allow those children to develop with various perspectives. They begin to learn. Sometimes they have to control their behaviors and they have to change the ordinary way of doing things. But then when they find some interesting looking stones or bugs, they get excited, and I don't want them to lose such excitement. And I would always like to remain a nursery teacher who can see children feeling the nature. And the nature helps development of children. So we have to value such nature. And I would like to work with all the nursery teachers and other stakeholders to have profound communication about the development of the children. And I would like to stay close to the children so that I will better understand the children in development. That's why I would like to maintain views of looking at lives from the perspectives of assistive education. I thank you for your attention.
渡辺先生、ありがとうございました。
Dr. Watanabe, thank you very much.
So, それでは次の加藤先生、お願いいたします。
Ms. Gato, please. Yes, I'd like to speak under the title of my experience of producing the work lives of 3.8 billion years from the viewpoint of the speech, language, and hearing therapist. Let me explain about my qualification. A speech and language hearing therapist is a nationally qualified and recognized professional who assesses and provides training to improve, maintain, or compensate for impaired function and the resulting communication difficulties in people who have difficulty speaking, hearing, eating, or drinking. I am particularly involved in the development of language and communication in children. Now let me get into the contents. On the August 11th, 2021, a reunion was held for graduates and their parents who had used the developmental counseling service in Town A. Amongst other activities, we read stories and drew pictures about the expanse of lives in living things. The pictures were collected and displayed at the Everybody's exhibition. I drew it. We collected these drawings and displayed them in the exhibition entitled Lives of 3.8 billion years in November. The teaching material we used was a picture book called The Expanse of Lives by Ms. Keiko Nakamura, Honorary Director of the JD Life Science Museum. The nursery teacher read the book to 8 groups of parents and children and explained about Keiko Nakamura's the scroll painting of history of lives and an expanse of lives in the form of the pan. The picture story shows was relatively long, about 10 minutes, and some of the words used were unfamiliar to the children. But thanks to the nursery teacher's expressive reading, the kids were absorbed into the picture story show. Afterwards, the children were asked to freely draw their favorite creatures on the circular piece of yellow paper. Many of the kids used the picture cards they had prepared as a model for their drawings, but some kids were able to draw their favorite animals without using the cards. When we think about lives, a lot of questions keep on coming, one after another. The children can actually ask questions such as, what's living things? We want to encourage kids to ask such questions about the wonder of life. It is a hope that the kids' question will lead to their own interests and concerns, and that by listening and talking together with adults and drawing pictures of their favorite creatures, rather than being taught by adults, they will be given a small opportunity to look at the lives around them and to ask questions about expanse of lives. Here, I would like to explain the title of the book by Keiko Nakamura that we used for the reading, The Expanse of Lives. Life begins with one cell and diversifies over a long period of time, 3.8 billion years. And humans are one of the diverse lives, and humans are not at the top of evolution. All living things on Earth are connected. And if we focus on you, who are in the midst or center of various connections, we can see from there the expanse of lives. It expresses the idea that being alive is an amazing thing. This way, 8 lovely pictures were created. Each kid worked very hard on the drawings, with their parents looking on next to them. One boy drew a picture of his favorite otter. He loves living things and listened to the storytelling with great interest. At first, he had to choose a picture card, but once he dedicated to draw an otter, he didn't need a card and finished his picture in no time. It made me smile to think that he must have been drawing otters again and again in his daily life. Another boy drew a picture of hydrangea. When he came to developmental counseling in the past, he was not very good at giving shape to what he wanted to draw, but this year, as a first-year kid, he was able to complete his delicate drawing by looking at the hydrangea card and carefully drawing and painting each petal and leaf. He was very nervous about talking to people outside of his family, but he was so happy and proud when the other moms praised him. The tapestry on which the kids' drawings were displayed was made by presenter today, Ms. Watanabe. The tapestry was made by Ms. Watanabe, and she stitched the tapestry with her heart and soul based on the life history picture scroll by Ms. Keiko Nakamura, the honorary director of the JT Museum. The Biohistory or History of Lives scroll painting expresses the history and relationship between various living forms. If you look very closely at the fan-shaped part of the tapestry, you can find many embroidered cells. The tapestry is very beautiful. We decorated it with the kids' drawings. In addition, we had 7 older kids who are currently using the developmental counseling service and a family member who has a connection with this activity. Draw picture 2, making a total of 23 pictures to decorate. We named this work Lives 3.8 Billion Years. It is autumn for a fortnight from the 14th of November. An exhibition was held at the Kuga Memorial Museum in Suemachi, Kasuya-gun, Fukuoka Prefecture. The place is rich in nature, and the exhibition was held for 2 weeks. The exhibition was beautiful. I drew it. Look at this exhibition. The work, 3.8 billion years of lives, is described here. The kids who took part, their families and acquaintances were invited to visit the museum in autumn to see how their drawings had turned out. These were the creators of the work, 3.8 billion years of lives. They're standing in front of the tapestry. They took a commemorative photo in front of the fan depicting the unfolding of lives. Their favorite creatures, beetles, otters, snakes, mushrooms, dinosaurs, beetles, squirrels, grasshoppers, fish, horses, rabbits, and hydrangeas. My favorite creatures on the life's history scroll pictures. I hope that kids felt that we are one of these diverse life forms. These are the comments that we collected from the questionnaire. Just as you see in a yellow color form, some actually appreciated our activities. On the other hand, those written in a blue card said the activities were not so impressive. The findings. Some children became interested in the activities because they enjoyed the storytelling time, and some because they enjoyed working with the friends and families, and some because they enjoyed drawing, because they like to draw favorite animals. What is common was that lively expression on the faces of the kids when they were working. The parents are also smiling and cuddling up to the children, and we believe that this was one of the most significant aspects of the initiatives. Furthermore, the kid who actually depicted the river otter, it was a good opportunity because he was able to think about the other animals, and I'm sure that he was able to feel the breath or the expanse of lives that maybe he doesn't really think about in daily lives. We hope that this opportunity for parents and children to talk and think about living things will encourage them to talk about living things from time to time in their daily lives. I think it's important to think what kind of river a favorite river otter can live in, and the color of the hydrangea flowers, and the soil in which they grow. This type of opportunity is not something that can be achieved simply by handing picture books and drawing paper to each family as adults. The theme of lives may seem to be a big one, but we believe that small activities like ours hopefully could lead to thinking about lives and also to One Health. We believe that the children who visited an exhibition gained confidence because of special activity and a joy. On the other hand, some kids did not remember the activities itself very well, so we want to repeat the activity again and again. I think it's important for adults to watch over the kids as they change their way of looking at the nature and the creatures around them. I think it's important to watch but standing next by. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Oh, I now would like to take a look at the video of how kids have been working.
加藤先生、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Ms. Kato, for your presentation.
それでは竹中先生、
Mr. Takenaka, please give us your presentation. One Health from a perspective of occupational therapist. I am Takenaka of Fukuoka OT Association. Today I'd like to talk about the life from people and environments from perspective of occupational therapies. So the meanings and the strengths of occupation. Very nice to have this opportunity. Firstly, these are the flows of talks. As to the occupational therapist, I'd like to shed a light onto this. Rehabilitation area, the occupational therapies. We call it OT for short. So the occupational therapists who do the occupational therapy is called OT as well. Doctors and language therapists and the OT and the paramedical people are working together in the rehabilitation area. We are collaborating as team members. OT through the occupation. People should become healthy and happier. So this is the idea. And based upon academic concept, we have to have a focus-based treatment, the guidance, and support. OT is important. So OT is to solve the problem which is a hindrance to their life. Healthcare approach, one of the healthcare approaches. This is, I'm sure, since you get up in the morning to late at night when you go to bed, what do? You change your clothes, you eat, you wash your face and go to work. You have a talk with your friends. You spend time the whole day. I'm sure you might do this in OT field. To spend our time in here, all the aspects of activities is what we call the occupation. If you cannot do these works, what will happen? Occupation, what will happen? So this is very important. Meaning. So you cannot do the meaningful work. What do you do? Through OT is considering the beings, people or occupational beings. People have to do something. That's your well-being. That's your beings. OT, based upon this idea, it's a job to support people in doing the meaningful work for them, like what they want to do, what they must do, or what they expect to do. That is the meaningful work for the people. We support them with OT. When it comes to the word of occupation, it has a very extensive connotation in it. What is it that you want to do? What is it that you must do? What is it that it's expected of you? It differs from person to person. For a person to feel their happiness and healthiness, the way to that is true to them. So the occupation is starting from interaction between people and the environment. So the occupation exerts the influence on the people, the health. Sometimes it has a negative and the positive connotations in it. So the characteristic features of OT. The people with the diseases and the handicaps cannot do the occupational work. Then OT makes a rehabilitation program. So you practice OT occupation as a means to regain and recover the psychosomatic function. Using the OT, we help them in treatment and the rehabilitation. It is not due to their cause. There is no good match around the environment, people, and the occupation. This is the concept of OT. The change of environment, what you can do and what you must do changes. So the work environment is to be changed. It's better for quicker acceleration of our environment. So people and the environment interaction should be adjusted so that you can aim to be healthier and happier. This is a very this is connected to the One Health concept. With OT, people's health and the health can be promoted. So the health, all the sort of areas, the health and the welfare and so forth. This is a well-focused work. So the disease with the handicap, congenital disease and handicaps, regardless of the age, we create the connectedness with the society for all people who require support on a day-to-day life, regardless of the age. OT's objective is toward the realization of well-being and happiness. It is set to improve the environment for that purpose. In a collaborative way with the people, you have to create the objectives in this program making. So without this person's perspective, you cannot achieve the program. So from the needs, occupation will start. So for that person, the life which is truthful to them, suitable to them, we create this environment for the sake of these people. This is where OT works. 60% of OT's work belong to the medical institution. Remaining 40% works in various sites of society. And also they're also part and parcel of the community-based health promotion activities. They are doing the various works, involved in various works. They're a specialist to school by MHW, and they complete this program. If they pass the national examination, they get registered at the American institution and the education welfare facilities in extensive way. We are very active. This is about OT. And next, since last year, COVID-19 pandemic is upon us. In the environment where there's a spread of infection, what is it we have done so far? For the past 2 years, COVID-19 has cast a major impact into society. In Fukuoka picture, there's almost 80% of the bed occupancy. COVID-19 recovered patients can be accepted in the hospital so that they are doing the rehabilitation services for helping them to recover. And also there is an expected extension of this period. This has caused a social problem. Now the new lifestyle has been settled, and then the day service, they are now going to the day service. The people who have a daily practice of exercise, if they don't do exercise, then there is a concern about the disuse syndrome. That in case of muscle strength, in 1 month, 50% will decline in muscle strength. Once muscle strength is lost, then it takes twice the time to regain your muscle strength. Going outside, you have a less interaction with the people, sociability, and they will decline the sociability level and the interaction level, so that it might trigger various diseases, including dementia, so that it will also cause a further decline in the volume of activity. In this vicious cycle, this is what we call the fray. For the elderly people, this is one of the reasons for them to require the caring service. But due to decline in the immunity, this would make the infectious disease more serious in nature. This slide shows that to prevent the fray and to promote the health. These are major points for us to concern. To prevent from worsening in the home, you have to move around your body in your home environment. You have to take a role. You have to put in order the life rhythm, we will call it a positive circle. But if you feel bad and if you have underlying disease, you don't go overboard. So the therapists and doctors and new dietitians you have to consult. So you have to increase the volume as much as possible on a gradual basis. If you continue to be healthy, then fray prevention is very important. The seasonal change, and you have to pay attention to your physical condition. You have to prevent from worsening of the condition. This is the number of amount of exercise put into the number of steps recommended by the government. Under this self-restraint environment, these numbers are not easy to understand. So what do you have thought about this? This shows the number of steps and the number of the amount of exercise and the level of house chores. With the 600 steps of exercise, 10 minutes worth of laundry and dishwashing and cooking would apply. So it's 10 minutes of walking, then there are 1,000 steps. So due to the work, you have to make the use of occupation to promote your health. For example, in this way, by combining these works, for 65-year-old or above women, you can achieve this amount of exercise volume. The house chores and the hobbies and so forth, these are the works that occupations that are doing from day to day. So without losing your role, you can continue to what you can do, so you can prevent disuse syndrome. This is entrusted, our association is entrusted by Kitakyushu City. This is activity we do. Then in a small group, we are now taking the infection preventive measures and doing this exercise. The objective of this work is that Kitakyushu has invented this Himawari Tai Chi exercise, through which they are trying to promote their health. And also from in the nearby environment, elderly people can be engaged in the healthy health promotion activities. Now, in the Kitakyushu City, 3,000 or more people engaged in this work. And also at the voluntary groups, there are 182 groups of voluntary groups engaged in this sort of work. After the program, 95% of the people have shown the improvement and maintenance of their psychosomatic functions. So we introduced this in the homepage for you to take a look at in your leisure. Now, from now, this is my mainstay of a talk. This time by JVMA, we were asked to participate in One Health training tour. Since last year, this is the second time we have participated. And the COVID-19 pandemic, we're concerned, but on the October 1st, they have lifted the measures. Now, for the first time after a long time elapsed, we have enjoyed a small trip. The Kyushu Disaster Animal Rescue Center, this is what Kitazato Shibataburo Memorial Hall, and this restaurant, Bosco, we have visited as a part of this bus tour. The itinerary itself is for us to experience the forest bathing program. But in this tour, most impressive thing is that within the bus one in transition, Ms. Dr. Kazuhiko Imamura of JVMA has introduced to us the Jin Sensei, that is the Anthropocene. Anthropocene means geological word. So in order of that, this is a part of the time block as the Anthropocene. Originally, this is not originally or officially accepted term. Geologically speaking, after the Cenozoic era, this is what called the newest era. But as a result, recently, in here, nooks and crannies of the earth, there is radiation and concrete and CO2 and other issues. So that the accumulation of people's activities in the rivers, the quality in the rivers, and the ocean and so forth, there is traces of these activities in the span of human life. Human activities are being ingrained into the geological layer, so that in a short period of time, it impacts the environment in the globe. So recently, with the COVID-19 pandemic, by the deforestation, so that spillover from original place, that is the infection from wild animals, as was mentioned in the keynote lecture yesterday. At the upward, in this graph on the right-hand side, the biological amount of biological beings and the amount of artificial volumes, concrete and metals, artificial total weight in 2020 exceeds that sort of biological things. So far, this is what I hear from somebody else, but I am being OT. So I have to listen to the specialist of geology, but if you take interest, then please refer to this new word or keyword of Anthropocene. Please look into this on your own. Going back to where we were, because of concern about the environmental destruction on us, we visited Kyushu Disaster Animal Rescue Center. This is the first ever permanent pet shelter. This is the main hall of the center. So with the support of Kyushu JVMA, so at the time of disaster, it supports initial responses to accommodate pet animals affected by the disaster, and also they are developing the volunteers, and also they're using this facility for the retired people for making use of the forest. For us, during the disaster, as medical support, with 13 paramedical teams, JRAD, Japan's Disaster Rehabilitation Support Center, we have created. We have chapters in 27 prefectures. As a Fukuoka JRAD, we are active as well in our prefecture. At the time of the major large-scale disaster in Kyushu every year, unprecedentedly, we are suffering from big heavy rainfalls, downpours. Generally speaking, due to the global warming, it is to be caused by global warming. And then also we are seeing, observing the earthquake in Miyazaki, in Oita. There is the earthquake at the scale of 3. This is the ICF, that is not just in rehabilitation, international classification of functioning and disability and health. There are health people around the health conditions subdivided into various levels. There are 3 areas of life functions. So I like to think about the disaster. If the way with the disaster breakout, there is damage to the life environment, causing the human activities, impacting human activities. It also gives damage to the psychosomatic functions directly, and there's a fragmentation of communities and the supermarkets and the neighborhoods areas and social scenes. They're all affected. Personal life will be damaged, so it affects your health condition. It deteriorates your condition in the disaster time, and as well as in normal times. It's important for us to maintain this health level. The present in Japan, in accordance with the Disaster Rescue Act, we have to DMAT. We have to do DMAT for the life saving and the rescue for 3 days. They're active. Afterwards, JMAT by Japan Medical Association, they are providing the disaster relief and rescue with JRAD, the rehabilitation support team on a national scale. We organized and take actions. Other than that, we have various professional volunteer teams coming to the scene. So in the phase, their activities are different, and also depend upon the organizations. The termination of activity time is different, so their lives will be affected by this. As a secondary, rescue operation, they have to be confining themselves in the facility, so that this data, who is specialized in the livelihood support, they're active in the immediate phase. In the large scale the devastation, the rehabilitation team is engaged in this for longer period of time. At the time of the major disaster, what about the evacuation along with the pet? Realistically speaking, it's difficult. So you get lost. If you go to the shelter, beyond that, in this life, there could be many troubles. At the time of the East Japan major earthquake after the devastation, they put on the bulletin for looking into the missing dogs and pets. Although they are saved, but they get injured. At the time of the rescue, they are kept away from the pet owner, so they are lost. This time we visited the Kyushu Disaster Animal Rescue Center. So they used a cottage which used to be used as the recreation facility. They are equipped with a treatment facility, so they feel safe, and you can make use of this. If they cannot take your pets to the shelter, then if you can utilize the shelter, you feel safe as owners. This is my summary. I have introduced to you OT. In One Health, the healthy utilization of ecosystem is very important for the people living there, and also it will enhance the feeling of well-being and happiness. And for us, the healthcare workers, the animals and people, and the surrounding environments are mutually connected. We have to understand this in a comprehensive way. So related professional organizations should stand on the same understanding to be engaged in this activity. I quite agree to this thought. However, because of OT as a profession, the sense of happiness and well-being of the people, it's important values. So One Health, to understand, interpret the One Health idea. Ultimately, you are all connected to the thought. One Health idea, it requires much more people who cooperate and much more considerations. So instead of tilting toward the people already thought, we have to have a good terms and relationship with animals and the ecosystem and environment people. Thank you very much for this opportunity for participating in this tour. This is my our home's cat. He rocketry is a part and parcel of families. So we are all prepared with disaster, the coping equipment, but we are sure what will happen to us. Well, thank you. If you are taking interest in OT, please look and visit us in our homepage. Thank you very much for attention.
竹中先生、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Takenaka-san.
利光先生、それでは五感への刺激が及ぼす心の発達への
Toshimitsu, I would like to invite you to the podium to discuss stimulus to 5 senses to help development. Thank you very much. I'm an associate professor and a clinical psychologist, certified psychiatrist. I work at the Nishikyushu University and I also work with communities. Now, these are my beloved dogs. They are no longer with me, but having met them made me realize how important it is to build an inclusive community. I owe them a lot. Now, let me begin with this chart. This shows the trends of absenteeism at different levels of education. Now, some children experience absenteeism or become recluse. What triggered that situation? According to this survey, they met challenges in communication, building relationship with others before going to school or during the school age. When they face challenges, it shows that the professionals must intervene and multiple occupations of experts must be there to work together to support them. So the causes of becoming recluse, well, absenteeism or leaving the work, sometimes caused persons to be recluse. But sometimes absenteeism can start during the school age. When the time is prolonged for being recluse, it becomes more difficult to go back to the society. Even if you may want to go back to the society, your family may not be supportive. Your family may care too much about the appearance to the society. You may be motivated, your family may be demotivated to go back to the normalcy of the society. And this means that we have to support the person who is recluse, but also his or her family members as well. So the therapeutic assistance to recluse include family consultation, individual therapy, and group adaptation support. The families' cooperation in helping the recluse to go back to the society is of absolute necessity. The society still has a major bias against recluse. Therefore, the environment may discourage those people to exit out of being recluse. Somehow, the social adaptation level may be temporarily low, but still, the wellness status may remain quite healthy. In that case, the support from the family members would certainly enhance the opportunity for the recluse to once again regain his or her life. Recently, we have seen such challenges as internet addiction of the youth, especially in junior high and senior high schools. And this chart indicates that addiction is a term which has negative connotation, but I don't think there is anyone who does not have any addiction at all. You are addicted to at least something, but then sometimes such addiction becomes too much. The pursuit of sensation, euphoria, excitement, and joy is normal to anyone, but such pursuit can become escalate to the level of disease, and such a pursuit becomes out of control. Then that is the addiction. And that addiction can cause harm to your health or can cause you to have some social challenges as well as problems with your family members. Then that should be treated as a disease. Recently, we often hear about children with developmental disorders. And this chart shows the number of children with developmental disorders and who have attended schools for full year. And you can see the number is increasing. The total population of children is declining. However, the number of those children with developmental disorders is increasing, indicating the absolute necessity for assistance for those children with such disorders. Now, children with developmental disorders can have such characteristics in the areas of hearing, vision, taste, smell, and touch. Children with such disorders can be either hyperesthetic or hypaesthetic. Either way. Well, within our lives, as we move on our lives, we start being worried about dementia, and it is well known that the population with dementia is on the rise as well. And this chart shows how many of them do we expect in 2025. Back in 2012, there were 4.6 million people with dementia. 13 years later, we expect the number to get close to 7 million. Now, the most characteristic symptoms of people with dementia would be the core symptoms of memory disorders. But there are also BPSD or behavioral and psychological symptoms. For example, wandering, hallucination, violence, pica, rejection of care, and so forth, so forth. The modern medicine has focused on treating the core symptoms in the middle. However, families as well as the communities worry more about BPSD, and alleviating BPSD would be an important factor for the community and for the people with dementia to live through their lives. So from these key phrases, we really have to come back and consider what health is. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, according to the definition of the WHO. If I may interpret that with my own words, having a good physical condition is something that is easy to understand. The absence of illness or systematic dysfunctions would be easier to identify through various examinations. But then the mental excitement or the absence of anxiety is another area which constitutes health. You may be healthy physically, but you may not be healthy mentally. And even if you have physical disabilities or disorders, if you have an environment and surroundings which can enhance excitement in your mental states, then your life can be considered as something worth living. And altogether, they're put into constituting the well-being in the society. So health is not about physical, mental, and environment are also important aspects of contributing to the level of health and well-being of an individual. There are 6 pillars in One Health, as I understand, all of them very important. Since I am a psychiatrist, I started thinking where I can contribute and found that out of those 6 pillars, I may be able to contribute with my psychiatric and psychological backgrounds in 4 pillars from 3 through 6 to help people become healthier, especially number 5, health building. If you may have certain illnesses, if you have good family, neighbors, companion animals, and if you have the role to play in society, then you can have much better subjective well-being. People with disabilities or dementia, as well as their family members, can be supported from professionals like ourselves. Number 6 would be the environment, humans and animals relationship. For example, safe and secure farming produce and some food and nutrition education can be an important part of constituting health. That is, as I call it, counseling based on agriculture. Also, animal-assisted therapies. Humans enhance happiness by being with companion animals, and it is important to consider what humans can do to make the companion animals happier and free of stress. Now, lastly, I'd like to discuss my concept of home built by psychology and One Health. Resetting yourself and refreshing yourself is extremely important, and home is where you can do so. Rehabilitate your five senses and improve them even further. You have to have a home where you can relax yourself and you can regenerate and revive yourself. Vision, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. These can be enhanced altogether with many people working together, because many professionals can want to work together for One Health. For example, relaxation and stress management can be enhanced by physiotherapists. Nutritionists, doctors, and nurses can help diet and nutrition. Nurses, speech therapists, physiotherapists, and occupational therapists can work together to offer support to parents and supporters and provide interesting opportunities like making aromatic candles and so forth. Well, I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Dr. Toshimi.
はい、今4名の方に発表していただき、
We have heard from 4 speakers, and they actually shared their views based on what they do, and it was such a multidisciplinary discussion. And I think perhaps you received a kind of hints because what you heard were probably somewhat different from what you normally think of. And now let us start a discussion. And now I would like all speakers to come forward. The one thing I'd like to share with you is the tapestry here. You saw a while ago in a video, this is the real one. In the One Health Forum, we heard about potential teaching materials. I think this could be the one that you can perhaps use. For instance, what you can do is that ask kids what they like, what sort of creatures they like. They can just place the drawings that they created on the tapestry. And so I think this would be a very good material for your teaching activity. And if you're viewing with Zoom, please enjoy this tapestry for a while. I think all speakers are now in the front. So, Dr. Okubo, would you please summarize what's been shared by each speaker? Yes. We heard from the 4 speakers. So let's remember what we heard from Ms. Yuko Watanabe. From the point of nursery teacher, we heard from the point of the education on the children with a disability. She was sharing the how to look at lives. From the things that the kids come in contact, they can accumulate small experiences of knowing on their own. As season changes and as they work inside and outside in different environment, they're very acute in terms of how they sense the nature. Sometimes they forget about time and keep watching fish. They collect shells and pebbles and then do same thing every day. I think that is so typical of small kids. And for such experience is very important because that will foster the feeling that we human actually live together with the animal in nature. And sometimes what they do and how adults want to do may not match, but the adults need to respect their behaviors. And I think consciously we need to wait. With this pandemic situation, we shouldn't just focus on what we cannot do, but as time changes, season changes, I think we can look at things positively. I think the hint can be found in how kids actually act. We should believe in the talents of kids. And then Ms. Kato, from the point of the speech, language, and hearing therapist, we heard that she actually worked on the producing the scroll, the paintings. And that was based on what Ms. Keiko Nakamura thought. And I heard that the tapestry was first made and then they all contributed. I also experienced the activity. It was beautiful. And I wonder, by looking at all the drawings, what kids were thinking. The fan shape means the lives have changed and also spread it into various shapes over the 3.8 billion years. The Ms. Kato used the term expansive lives, and also all lives are connected. And you are also in the midst of that connection. I think that really is a beautiful term. There is a message from Ms. Nakamura as well. And this time she worked with the parents and kids who came to developmental counseling, and the kids were asked to draw the creatures that they liked. I think that stimulates their kids' senses and help them become more creative. And I'm sure that the time that they spent was very useful. And it was also important that both parents and children worked under the same topic. And I think all those activities provided the kind of opportunities for them to realize that all lives are connected. In the feedback they received, it was interesting how kids felt. And even if what they actually show may vary, I'm sure at deep inside, even if a comment says, oh, I don't quite remember what I drew, I'm sure that that actually keeps good memory. And as Ms. Kato said, I think I agree that it's important to carry out activity like this a number of times. Maybe it's a good day to decide the certain date to think about lives, perhaps, so that everywhere they can do it. The Dr. Takenaka explained about occupational therapy, and Dr. Takenaka talked about activities related to one health and also issues the human live, and we go through all the works, and when it becomes not possible to do what we want to do, then we receive occupational therapy, and we also receive the guidance and assistance. With that, we gain a reconnection with communities. There is a disused syndrome And for the fragile, the people and elderly people, it's a great issue. For health promotion, Dr. Hitake Naka provide the exercise opportunities and information so that you can calculate the house chore into the exercise. Dr. Takenaka is active in terms of rehabilitation with disaster. Recently, there have been a lot of disasters. And at the time of disasters, it becomes impossible for us to carry out our daily lives. And also, it could increase more people who needs occupational therapy. Recently, a lot of people have pet animals, and there are different ideas in terms of how the pet animals should be handled at the time of disaster. And Dr. Takenaka talked about Animal Rescue Center. I hope that there could be more rescue centers like that. And I'm sure that would benefit the lives of the owners. One Health may sound grandiose, but I believe that One Health can be achieved through a series of small actions. And as long as the animals live and we live, we should make small adjustments one by one, and by accumulating that, we can materialize One Health. The clinicians and the veterinarians should also pay more attention to environment. Dr. Soshimitsu talked about the development of the mind with the 5 senses, and Dr. Toshimitsu introduces how they can actually stimulate the senses. There are more and more absenteeism, and these oftentimes community talks about developmental disorder. But as we heard, we know that those kids, people have sense-related issues such as hearing, vision, taste, touch, and proprioception. And I think that problem can interfere with social interaction. The BPSD also is a serious issue with people with a dementia. And I think stressful society adds more burden. Under this pandemic, a lot of people are tired in terms of their mindset. From the point of One Health, we should think about supporting them in terms of their mind. And I think it's meaningful to think about the place for themselves. The nature provides a stimuli, for instance, the sound of wind and the warmth of light. And from that, our 5 senses are woken up in a nice manner. And I think it could lead to the regaining of the senses. The interaction and amongst different age groups, and regardless of disability or ability, I think a lot of people want some places where we can be filled. If we can be involved in multidisciplinary manner under the One Health, we can make connection, we can approach and analyze. I think it's a very, very new approach.
楽しみにしています。
For me, I look forward for having this opportunities to have this sense, to have this place to stay. As is now mentioned, based upon this, in our talk, if you come up with some thoughts, it's welcome. So to our questions, I hope dear speakers will answer our questions. Ms. Watanabe, I'd like to ask you a question. There are 6 pillars of One Health. This is a buzzword. So in your mind, these 6, I'm sure, is implanted in your mind. And how does it relate to the nursery teaching and rehabilitation? They are connected. When you give your thought to this, the nature is the starting point of rehabilitation, you said. So Could you elaborate on this? Especially in the second sheet, that a boy is looking into the potato digging field against the fence. It's quite impressive. So from that slide, once again, the nature is a starting point for the child reading or rehabilitation. So from this perspective, could you elaborate on the thought? Thank you. Yes, thank you. The rehabilitation in the day-to-day practice is through the people's guidance, through which you feel something, you come to notice something. I'm sure you have abundance of such. The people-to-people interaction, children would receive something. This is quite significant. Yet, the people-to-people, not just it is not nurtured in the people-to-people interaction. From nature, there are something that nature works on this, I'm sure. As was mentioned, beyond the fence, boy K was looking into the field. K, on his own, he goes to and set a step on the field. He was aroused by the nursery teacher, I'm sure that's one trigger, but ultimately, in the end, boy K, his mind was motivated to do that so that he was able to enjoy, have a fun. Nature, it's nature's inherent power, I think. Boy K, vis-a-vis the field, that is what he feels from the nature. I'm sure he feels something. The nursery teacher, I'm waiting, please come over. Instead of not this sort of positive waiting, there is a field in front of you. That's all there is to it. In this waiting framework, the seedlings of potato that was planted in the early summer, deep in the autumn, it has grown to be full-fledged potato. So before the development of potato, it takes time. So as we have to wait with a warm mind, patiently. So the work on nature, working on this, it takes time. We have to warmly wait for the time. The nursery teaching and rehabilitation. We like to talk this, the inherent power of nature. We have to talk this with a lot of people. So this sensation, sensitivity, this bud should not be cut in the middle. It should not be pit. So cut. We have to nurture the spontaneous feeling of a child. You have to wait for this. We have to get used to this type of rehabilitation. So along with the parents, guardians, and the various organizations and the nursery teachers, along with this, we like to superimpose our thought in the One Health spirit. So we'd like to come closer to the 6 pillars as much as possible. Thank you. Thank you for your thought. Beyond the fence, boy K was looking at the field. This image will linger on in our mind. Thank you very much. Next, Ms. Kato, in her presentation, this is quite interesting indeed. In Fukuoka Prefecture, we have a One Health article, One Health ordinance. You can make easy access to the homepage. If you read it through into the article, ordinance is difficult on a day-to-day life, but together we like to read it through and we like to read it. Along with you, we are making this effort along with the citizens. During the education session, this article was referred to, Article 10, Item 2, as you see in the underlined areas. In the red color, in order to nurture the One Health power or capability, so you have to resort to the methods pursuant to the psychosomatic stage of development. This is quite impressive. In the education session, they have dwelt upon the education afterwards. In case of Kato-san, you are the specialist in the speech language hearing therapy, therapy. So 3.8 billion year history. This is a very lofty word, but this is something you like to convey significance. So 3.8 billion years, this word, and nature, its relationship with the nature. How do you nurture or foster this sort of sensation? So I'd like to have your word. This is my burning question, so please refer to this. In the development, along with the developmental stage. So at the 6 years old, so a strange word and language that they take an interest. So in a positive way, they like to get to know this at that phase in their development process. So to participate in this activity, because it varies from level to level, but the oldest child in nursery school and the first year grader, that is the life and the 3.8 billion year history. So they, instead of letting it go, they have to seriously take these words in. These children, as exact meaning, they don't get the meaning, but they connect it with their knowledge. They understand on their own way. They interpret it in their own ways. Seeing this from an adult's perspective, 3.8 billion years, they cherish this connotation. In order to help them understand this, we like to provide an opportunity or environment for them to understand nuances, time and the place that are set up, and the pictures in the picture storytelling, storybooks, and also the very rich storytelling of the nursery teachers, a very important element. And also the numbers, there are quite a large number of children who like numbers, 3.8 billion. How many zeros are there? So we let them see it, and we show this so that they think that this is a big number. Indeed, we are doing this for the children. So the visually and the audibly, we give this information so that it will be stayed in the minds of the children and the memory of the children, so that it would nurture their understanding. So in their time, it's not something we can do as a speech therapist alone. In their lives, here and there, we have to share these thoughts and this talk with the children. That's very important. In the earlier stage of development, what they see and what they know, the children living in that domain, this activity of storytelling is somewhat difficult, but still, you cannot really say that it's not possible, I think. 3.8 billion year history in this very lofty scale of a talk, you cannot easily understand this. You don't understand upon the moment. You have to spend time in a patient way. Ms. Watanabe's talk says that children, as their own experiences, life and nature, they feel a lot about the nature, so that they store their thoughts. Beyond that, the year of 3.8 billion yen and the nature, they can be added into their understandings. Thank you. Ms. Kato, this word is difficult for the children to understand. They don't understand the life. It's not there. How? We should convey the meanings to them so that they understand. This is something that we think it's fun for us to convey. And it's something we like to think together. Thank you very much. From my side, I would like to ask a question to Ms. Takenaka. Mr. Takenaka, in Fukuoka Prefecture ordinance, through the medical health organizations, you promote the activities of One Health. In your presentation, NPOST, that you have introduced to us this training about the training of NPOST with the professionals, people with specialties from the people's health. They are active in the healthcare and the rehabilitation fields, but this time, from One Health perspective, from perspective of people, animals, and the environment to think about the health. This is quite unprecedented approach that you can see through. So One Health, under the theme, you give the trainings in Fukuoka Prefecture. This endeavor is quite pioneering indeed. So the specialist people, their effort have their own uniqueness in it. So that in OT, the life support, you are planning, you have the plan to support them at the time of the disaster before it happens. Are you preparing this as well? And also including animals, what to do with the pets. This is also inclusive. So you are the representative director of the Fukuoka chapter of the General Incorporated Association, Japan Disaster Rehabilitation Support Association. Could you share your thoughts as to this? Thank you. Thank you very much for your question.
Starting 2016, I've become the Secretary General of JRAD, mostly focusing on logistics, formulating and instructing teams to dispatch and support communication between the headquarters and the front line. For example, West Japan, major rain, torrential rain and flood, and Kumamoto volcanic eruption and so forth. Actually, I'm not the one who's dispatched, but I do read lots of reports from the front line. So my comment will be based upon such reports that I've read. Disaster preparedness in our support planning. Well, this is a work not only of JRAD, but all the supporting organizations provide drills and simulations for disasters to be effective at the time of disasters. And of course, the people with disabilities and their supporting families will be affected more seriously than others. And those people who cannot respond to evacuation orders must be much better prepared. Certainly, different professional societies and governments and volunteers have worked together to create manuals in terms of what to do at the time of disasters. So, depending on the level of disabilities, it's very important that you prepare yourself for unseen and unknown. For example, you may experience congestions on the road, but it's important that you go through those manuals first to educate yourself in terms of what to expect. Now, as for pets and companion animals, do we have the perspectives of supporting the pets? Do we consider them? The answer is no, unfortunately. But during the One Health tour, we went to the Animals Rescue Center and I exchanged business cards with the workers there. And I've seen signs of their existence at different shelters as well. Pets' safety must be secured, but of course the owner's security must be secured. If those animals are with the owners, there should be a way of us working together with those who provide specific care to those pets so that they can better cope. Well, we live in the area which is rather disaster prone. Protecting people's lives, protecting animals' lives might be an important perspective to be held by medical professionals. Thank you very much for your input. Now, Professor Toshimitsu, I would also like to ask you a question. Now, in the ordinance, harmonious natural environment and diverse animal and plants constitute an important relationship with human well-being. Well, Professor Toshimitsu, you showed us your photo of your two companion animals and talked about the building of inclusive communities. And you also made a proposal about building a home where you want to provide specific programs for people to live with people with disabilities or with diseases. Now, do you think this ordinance is very well linked to your thinking? Thank you for your question. Yes, I think this ordinance is pretty much linked with what I'd like to achieve. Now, solitude assistance under COVID-19 requires not only human-to-human relationships and links. You may not be able to meet people, but then you can always come in touch with the nature. You can be linked with something else than your human friends. And I think it's very important to feel that connection. Animals and plants are connected with us. They are linked with us. They are living things, just like we are. And with their intervention, alleviation of loneliness can progress. Thank you very much. So within the nature, we have all the living things which are interconnected and interlinked. I really hope that we are all able to build a home to ourselves where we can ascertain that we are linked with everything and around ourselves. I think we should wrap up this session. Watanabe-san, Kato-san, Takenaka-san, Toshimitsu-san, thank you very much for your contributions. Valuable input, certainly, to our discussion. As I listened to you, I also revisited 6 pillars of One Health, and from different perspectives of healthcare and other aspects of life, we can all be a part of it. We all live in nature eventually, and I really feel we should forget about that. Under COVID-19, healthcare and welfare are the areas which are directly influenced, and we should maintain our perspectives on One Health as we tackle the day-to-day challenges. With this, I'd like to conclude this panel. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, moderators and panelists.